Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Madison. You should definitely click on that little red subscribe button down below. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys all about what your first week in the Disney College program is like. I have filmed this video once before, but sadly my computer ate the footage, so here I am filming it again. To make something clear, I was going to do a video all about my character attendant training, but after thinking about it, I wasn't sure if that was appropriate, if I was supposed to put that out on the internet. I'm not 100% sure, but for now we're just gonna do a video all about your first week in the DCP and kind of what happens, what goes on, that sort of thing, and maybe I will do a character attendant video later on. So there is kind of a lot of confusion, at least for me when I was coming in. I thought that traditions, like when you get your blue ID and stuff, was at the very beginning of your check-in week, and that is not the case at all. You actually have to wait a pretty decent amount of time. So just to clear some of that up, I'm gonna read you guys off my itinerary. So this was January 29th. My program was spring. I'm currently on my extension, so that is May 17th through July 26th. But I'm just gonna be reading you guys off what my itinerary was and what y'all's might look like if you are coming to the college program. So as I said before, my check-in date was January 29th. And with that being said, that is the day that you get to go to your housing complex and move your stuff in. Something that I will say about check-in day is that people will say on the program page or the Facebooks or whatever that you cannot check in 15 minutes prior to your arrival time or something like that. Basically, you can't check in early. I didn't take that to heart because I was I'm always really early to everything. I showed up at 10:45 when my check-in time was at 11, and they turned me away. They made me go wait in the Walgreens parking lot. So if you want to get there early, just go right at your check-in time and wait in a parking lot or something, because they won't let you in until right at the time you're supposed to be there. So my check-in time was at 11, and I got there, went to the service building or the check-in place or whatever. I got my housing ID, I got my apartment key, I got my little programs lanyard, I got a program manual, just that sort of stuff. And from there you can go to your apartment and see if you linked with your roommates, which we did, which was awesome. And you just move your stuff in for the rest of the day. Some people that day do have their casting appointment, which is your onboarding is what it says on your itinerary, I'm pretty sure. Mine actually wasn't until the next day. So that's something that kind of threw me off because I wasn't aware that people had it the next day. I've just seen videos of people doing their check-in and then their casting in the same day. So half of my roommates had it the same day as check-in, and then me, and then the other half had it the next day. So basically for your onboarding or your casting, you have to take a form of ID. So I think I took my state ID, so my Texas driver's license, my social security card, and maybe my birth certificate. I'm not 100% sure, but make sure you have forms of identification, because that is a huge thing that you have to have for your casting appointment. Casting for me probably took about hour and a half to 2 hours maybe. I'm not sure, but basically what you do is you go to the bus hub. So I'm in Vista, so we went and we rode the bus to casting, did that, and then came back. That was pretty much it for that day. Disclaimer for those of you that do not know, you cannot go into the parks for free until you go through traditions, and I will get to that more at the end of the video. So I believe after our casting, we just went home and hung out for a little bit. We may have went to Disney Springs. Honestly, this is such a blur because I was so nervous, y'all. And on the day that I had casting, the other half of my roommates had their housing welcome session, which I got really excited for this. And if we're being honest, it's nothing to get excited about. It's literally you would be living in the dorms at college, and they're just giving you a rundown. If you're under 21, don't drink, don't have alcohol in your room, it's illegal, don't do that. Just things what you can have in housing, what you can't, a rundown of safety precautions, the bus schedule, just basic things like that. That was about an hour. So basically what I'm getting at is that half of my roommates were ahead of me in the process. Everything was a day before mine, and then I was just on my own little schedule with 2 other of my roommates. So to break this down for you, my check-in was obviously January 29th, my casting was January 30th, and then my housing welcome session was January 31st. And again, housing welcome session, not much to be excited about. So on January 31st, when my welcome session was, it was at 11 a.m. And at that point, the other half of my roommates didn't have anything to do that day. So we decided to go to Universal. We all got annual passes. I don't even know what to say about my annual pass because honestly, I've used it 3 times, which means like it's already pretty much paid for. But I'm a really big Disney person and I didn't realize I would not get tired of the Disney parks. So if you're like me, I wouldn't recommend spending all that money on the annual pass. It's gonna be cool though because I can come back like with my family and get into Universal for free virtually. But yeah, that's something that we did. And then I believe the next day we went resort hopping, which you can get into the resorts without a park ticket. So that was kind of what we did. We went to the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, Port Orleans, Riverside, because one of our roommates, Elena, was working there, so she wanted to like scout out her work location. But that was what we did in between times of like traditions when you can't get into the parks. I mean, if you want to pay for a ticket, if you're like really like hype about it, then do you. But for us, it didn't make sense to like rush that. Also during this time, you have to remember that you're still kind of moving in, so there were a lot of things that we still had to get for our apartment. Like we had to get the shelving unit for our pantry, we had to get all this different kind of stuff, so we were still like making Target runs, Walmart runs, getting groceries, that sort of thing. So just keep that in mind too. It is very like aggravating to like be waiting all this time to like get into the parks, but I promise once you can like get into the parks for free, it's a great time. It's super awesome. With that being said, my traditions was on February 3rd. So let me refresh you. My last like housing welcome session was the 31st. My traditions was not until February 3rd. So I had a lot of time between that. And traditions was really cool. It's just a basic class about like what Disney's about, like what you'll kind of be doing with the company. It's about 4 to 5 hours. I actually just did a video on like what to wear to traditions, so if that's something you're interested in, I will definitely link that down below. But like I said, you just learn about the company, you learn about everything Disney, like how it started, all that sort of stuff, and you walk around Magic Kingdom. Basically, you're just scouting what cast members are doing, like, oh, is this right? Is this right? Like that sort of thing. So traditions, super fun. Mine was February 3rd. As I said, it was early in the morning. It was at 8 a.m. Super early, but it was great because later that day we could all get into the parks for free because my roommates were the day before us. So they had already had their traditions and we just had to go the day after. After traditions, you start your like training. So I think the next day, so I think February 4th was when I had my welcome to ops, which again is just like another class like about safety, just like what it's about like with the company, all that sort of stuff. So welcome to ops, I believe, was the day after for me. So we went to the parks February 3rd that night, and then I had welcome to ops, I want to say at like 7:30 the next morning. So it was a really quick turnaround, but it was worth it because, you know, happily ever after, all that sort of stuff. Seeing it for the first time as a cast member is awesome. Another thing you get at traditions is your name tag, which I'm sure you've seen that in a lot of vlogs about traditions and that sort of thing. The last kind of bit I will mention about your first week in the Disney College program is after your welcome to ops. That is when you start your training for your actual role. So that was when I started my character attendant training. I'm not going to go too much into that because I may make a separate video on it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to yet. But yeah, that is all about your first week in the Disney College program. I hope this helped some of y'all out in just showing this is what happens. This is like the time frame, because I know for me it was really confusing and really frustrating when I got here and realized that traditions wasn't until like a week after I moved in. So I had to wait all this time to get into the parks, which is what I've been waiting for literally since like August when I got accepted. So that is all for this video. I hope this helped and I will see y'all in my next one. Bye.